Father Brian here, Director of the Permanent Diaconate for the Armagh Diocese. Myself, in conjunction with the formation team for the Permanent Diaconate from the Armagh Archdiocese and the Dromore Diocese, are making this short video presentation to explain a little bit about the role of the permanent deacon in the parish.
The ministry of deacon goes back to the very early days of the Church. In the Acts of the Apostles, chapter 6, verses 1 to 6, we have an account of the appointment of 7 deacons. And their role was to support the apostles by looking after the practical needs of the fledgling Christian community, to look after works of charity in order to free up the apostles for prayer and for preparation for preaching the word. The ministry of deacon was relaunched, in a sense, or reinvigorated during the Second Vatican Council and in the years afterwards. Because for a long number of years it had lapsed. It had become part of the journey towards priesthood, but wasn't a separate ministry on its own. So the main function of the permanent deacon, as envisaged by the Second Vatican Council, the main function is charity, to support and to promote church and lay-led charitable works in the parish, to develop an outreach to the marginalised, to those who are on the fringes of the church community. Secondly, they are called to preach, and to do that properly, they must be people of the Word. They must immerse themselves in Scriptures so as to be able to apply it to the needs of the world today. Their third function is to assist the priest at the altar and to promote Eucharistic adoration, to bring communion to the sick, and where necessary to celebrate the sacraments of baptism and marriage, as well as to preside at funerals. Above all, the main task, as we envisage for permanent deacons today, their main task is to support the laity, to support them in finding their role, their vocation as baptized Christians. And in doing that, they work very closely with the parish pastoral councils to encourage lay people to get involved. The ministry of the deacon should never really step in the way of lay people, shouldn't get in the way of their ministry, of their involvement, of the things that lay people can do. In fact, it should encourage it. And it would be hoped that in time, deacons would work very closely with lay pastoral assistants in parishes as well.
So part of the ministry of the deacon, apart from the altar and the Word of God, of course, is that of charity. And charity plays a big part in the ministry of any deacon. And particularly here in the parish that I serve in, part of that ministry of charity involves the visitation of the elderly and the housebound and the sick. And that will most of the time be in their own homes, or it may well be in nursing homes. And it's a great privilege and an honour to be there with those people. They may just want to say a few prayers with you. They may just want to have a bit of company. Some of them may actually want to receive the Eucharist, so on occasions we bring the Holy Eucharist to them as well. And it's a great privilege and honour to be part of that.
One of the areas of ministry which is entrusted to permanent deacons is proclaiming the Word. This entails proclaiming the Gospel in a liturgical setting. From time to time, the deacon may be asked to prepare a few words to preach the homily. To prepare to preach the homily, one must familiarise oneself with the text. This means going to the text in the lectionary and slowly reading over it a number of times, carrying out a lectio divina with it, to immerse oneself in the text, praying with it and about it helps the text to come alive. And from that, we can begin to put it down on paper. Another important aspect of the deacon's ministry of the Word is participation in sacramental preparation programs, such as pre-baptism and pre-marriage courses. The deacon can also be involved in the important practice of formation of ministries of the Word. This ministry in the church is generally the preserve of the laity, and the role of the deacon in this instance would be to train or educate lay readers in the proper practice of proclaiming the Word at Mass. Finally, another aspect of the role of the deacon in the area of being responsible for the delivery of the Word is facilitating the study of and prayer with the Scriptures. Although not exclusively a preserve of ordained ministry, study of and prayer with the Scriptures can also be undertaken by suitably trained and competent lay facilitators. But in the absence of their availability in the parish, the deacon can establish prayer and study groups to facilitate at parish level. To be able to proclaim the Word at Mass and break it open through the homily is one of the most humbling experiences one can have in the course of living and working out the ministry of a deacon.
It is difficult to put into words the privilege it is to assist at the celebration of the Eucharist. It is truly an honour to be standing beside the priest as he consecrates the gifts, to assist with the distribution of communion, and then to purify the sacred vessels. To bring communion to the sick in hospital or to the housebound is indeed a humbling experience. I still can't believe that I am presiding at exposition and benediction of the Blessed Sacrament, something I used to look on with awe and wonderment as a young boy. And to perform the sacrament of baptism is a joyous occasion, being responsible for bringing that child into the church. Initiating them into the family of God is a real honour. And then, of course, we can celebrate marriages. I myself officiated at the weddings of my son and daughter, occasions I will certainly never forget, nor indeed will the family. Again, words couldn't explain as to how I felt so proud and so grateful for the opportunity. We can also preside at funerals, and whilst it can be a sad and sombre occasion, we do have the opportunity to be with the family over those few days and lend what support and comfort we can. Saint Pope John Paul II said that we deacons, by our ordination, are configured to Christ in his servant role. We are meant to be living signs of the servanthood of his church. I hope and pray that I perform my duties of service with humility and care.
Hello, my name is Ewan McCreesh. I am currently in the final year of formation to the permanent diaconate for the Archdiocese of Armagh. Certainly for me, one of the most important characteristics of the ministry of a deacon is charity. I, as part of my pastoral training, chose to be a volunteer with the Society of St Vincent de Paul in my home parish of Drumcree. Volunteering with the Society of St Vincent de Paul is a learning but enriching experience. It entails listening to people who are in need and who face struggles in life. We concern ourselves with the meek and those in need, and we share in their sufferings. St. Paul, in his letters to the Christians in Rome, reminds us that, as Christians, they will be urged by the Spirit to go out and to help others. Pope Francis, recently on Vatican News, implored pastors to live, laugh, cry, and communicate with your people, and he stressed that love for the poor is central to following Jesus. Charity is love. Yes, it involves giving and providing comfort to others, but it is also evangelizing, so that those we give to grow in self-acceptance and they become generous too. Visiting and helping, though, is not always easy. Yes, people can be difficult, even exasperating. But St. Vincent de Paul tells us that these are the very people we need to help and pray for more. This has helped me to realise the importance of reaching out into the community, especially the poor. Finally, it is in giving to others that we see their joy, which we receive also into our hearts.
A few days after my ordination in 2013, all the questions started. They ranged around, what should we call you? And will you have to leave your parish and move away as a priest would? Yet it only took a few more general questions around the wearing of the collar and the parish to which I was assigned to really get to the heart of the questioning. Then, and only then, would the true curious question arise from those who were brave enough and who dare ask. Will you now have to lead a celibate life? And what does Ursula think? Somehow I think my answer always came as an unexpected disappointment and bursting their bubble of hope and gossip. As I explained to them, no, I will not have to lead a celibate life, as my first vocation is to buy marriage to Ursula and my family. As a married man who has been called to serve within the ministry of the diaconate, a quote by Maya Angelou sums up for me where love and support for the other within the confines of marriage knows no bounds. Love recognizes no barriers. It jumps hurdles, leaps fences, penetrates walls to arrive at its destination full of hope. At the outside of the diaconate journey, I asked Ursula to trust God and His calling, and at times I know she had her doubts and questions, especially during the years of study. Without Ursula's true support and her trust in God's calling for me, I would not be where I am today. To sum it up in simple terms, I would be riding in a one-horse race with no real winner. And that is not what the ministry of a married deacon is about. Today we can genuinely say that there are three people in our marriage: Ursula, myself, and God. I would be lying if I was to say my ministry has been a bed of roses. It has had its highs and lows, from baptizing our grandson, Finlay, through to the giving a homily at my father-in-law's funeral, and his interment, and a number of months later, my own father's funeral, homily, and laying him to rest. I'm certainly not being facetious when I call Ursula Caiaphas, for she has certainly been my rock and my stronghold during my ministry. One day, I hope and I pray that both Ursula and I will hear the comforting words from the third person in our relationship. Well done, good and faithful servants.
During formation, I sometimes find it difficult. Martin would be away for study weekends, and I would have to make decisions with regards to the boys that normally we would have made as a couple. It certainly returned to normal once Martin was ordained and in active ministry. I found it strange at first to be attending church on my own, as Martin was away carrying out his ministry in his appointed parish. I have been involved in our home parish for quite some time, and I didn't want that to change. Being on my own at church took a while to become accustomed to, but before long it was as if this had always been the way. At the time of my father's death, it was a great comfort to myself, my mum and siblings that Martin was the one who delivered the homily and carried out my father's burial. All in all, I see my role as the wife of a deacon as being one of support. At times I'm assigned on board for things that he is dealing with, all the while respecting the confidentiality of those he is concerned about or working with. Reflecting on our journey throughout the diaconate process, I would have no hesitation whatsoever in going through it again, as we have both found the whole experience greatly enriched both our marriage and our family life.
Hi, how are you? My name is John Taff. I'm a deacon in St. Peter's Parish in Drogheda. And you know, I was drawn towards the diaconate where I got ordained in 2013. But I really loved, diaconate means service, a servant. And I just wanted to be of service to the people of God. I wanted to try to work with people to bring them back to know God's love. I've been involved in setting up a new group, that is involved in work of pastoral care. And that is prayer, teaching and healing and pastoral support. And over the last number of years, whether it be in starting off a food bank to bring food to those most in need, that's one area. Also as regards those people on the margins. Many people feel that they don't feel loved, they don't feel listened to, they don't feel in some way welcome. So we've set up a place called the Oasis of Peace in Cullen that people are welcome. People are welcome to come and be served with a smile and a listening ear. But also then we also are involved in prayer ministry. And so we sit and pray with people and listen to them and pray for healing. Other areas that we're involved in is the pastoral care for those that have gone through grief of a loved one. So we've set up a kind of a group here together that people can be around each other, that can support each other in the grief. We've set up a Matt Talbot, the Venerable Matt Talbot, an aftercare support group for those struggling with addictions and their loved ones. That happens here. So there's other ways. Youth, we're also involved with youth. And we gather and train up young people in skills that will help them in their pastoral work within communities, where they come together and they learn new skills, but also they come together, they meet each other. Sometimes we have movie and pizza nights and retreats. We're here, we've lovely surroundings. We've made a way across through the forest. We've lovely little areas to sit and reflect. We've laid out retreats that people can go and just spend time reflecting on their own lives. All of us, more than anything, whether in the diaconate of being chaplaincy to prisons or chaplaincies to hospitals or visiting the sick, many of these areas are so rewarding for me as a deacon, and I know for my fellow deacons. Thank you.
So that is the role that we envisage for permanent deacons in this diocese. And it's a wonderful vocation, and we would certainly encourage any man to think about it, to reflect on it, to see is it a way in which they are being called to serve their community, to serve the local people by works of charity, through preaching and also ministry at the altar.